Bit selfishly, I wanted to focus on like lower back stuff today because my lower back is feeling funky. Um, but I think that's just nice. So I might practice a bit too. But let's actually start standing and have your feet like hip distance or a little wider, maybe even. And just let your arms come by your side. Just start to feel the ground underneath your feet, the kind of texture that's underneath your feet. What it feels like underneath the right foot versus the left foot. And notice your spine. So you can bring your attention to the pelvis. You might even you could bring your hands to your kind of arches of the pelvis. Kind of just feel around in there and just be like, this is the pelvis. And feel or imagine your spine. Hi, welcome. We're just starting standing.
I think I saw you mouth high, so high back, because
Yeah.
I didn't hear the first part.
Hello. Yeah, we're just beginning standing, taking a nice and easy like restorative sequence. But first, just starting to feel like the ground underneath our feet, and then noticing the spine or feeling the spine kind of from the back of the pelvis, noticing where it is, its natural curves. And then you might want to take like a soft bend in your knees. And this is kind of this is kind of silly looking, but it's kind of nice. You can bring a hand to your fingertips to the very top of your head. And just a hand to your low belly and a little bend in your knees. You could also bring a hand to the back of the pelvis or just somewhere that tells you like, kind of bottom of me, kind of top of me, and just do a little bouncy bounce. Just kind of like, feeling like where the crown of the head is. And then you can let the hands go and just kind of feel that up and down of the spine. Even though it has those natural curves, there's this like energetic sort of like up and down. And then I'll invite you to take a sort of twisting movement. And there's no need to fling your arms across or like really strongly twist yourself. But you can just start to take a little twisting movement if that feels good. That seems to start from the soles of your feet. So it's like you're pressing your feet into the floor alternately. And that causes a little twist through the hips and through the spine and through the arms and the gaze. So let your jaw be soft. Notice how this movement travels from the ground up and really let it come through the hips. I wanted to focus on some like low back care, but a lot of that has to do with like how we're relating to the hips. And then you can just let that movement sort of die down, perhaps. And keeping your feet nice and wide, bring your toes to face forward so they're facing the same direction. And we'll inhale and reach the arms actually out through the sides. And then as you exhale, you'll bring your left hand to your hip and reach your right fingertips up and over. And so with this left hand, you're not pushing the hip over, but you're just resting this hand here. In fact, you're feeling for this space through the side waist as you reach up and over. pressing down through your right foot, especially. You can have your feet as wide or as narrow as you want, but have your toes parallel. So all of your toes are pointing forward. Notice if your ribs are wanting to come forward. See if you can make this a really clear, really pure side bend. And then inhale, come back to center. Exhale, lower the arms through the sides. Then you'll inhale your arms through the sides. And same thing on the other side. So right hand will come to right hip. Rather than pushing this hip over, you're just actually having it there for stability. You can even kind of like claw your fingers sort of up between your ribs and your pelvis to kind of check yourself and make sure that the ribs aren't pushing forward. And to feel that this space is compressing, but isn't, being tossed over one way or the other. You're still on top of your center. Just enjoying the sensation through the open left side, all the way from the armpit down through the side, waist, outer hip even maybe. As you press your left pinky toe into the floor, you might feel your outer hip, outer leg sort of stretching. Front of the side of the belly. There's something funny with stretching. There's like a tendency, there's like a point where you like go a little too far and then it like feels awesome, but the breath isn't as easy. And then there's a point where you're not as deep into the stretch as you could be. The breath is easy and it's almost a little precarious. Like it's like a little awkward. It's like you feel like you should go further. See if you can find that place where it's like, I could go further, but this is actually taking more concentration, more engagement to be here rather than like going all the way and resting in a shape. So, and come back to center and exhale, lower your arms through the center, through the sides. So just stepping your feet back together, coming back to standing. And I would like to take a couple of different types of like undulations. And if this like type of movement comes easy to you, that's cool. If it's really like kind of a mind game, that's okay too. It can look kind of funky. It can feel kind of like clunky and awkward, or it could be really smooth. But I would like to, let's see, first what we want to do. Let's inhale here with a straight up and down spine. And then as you exhale, we'll let the chin drop in towards the chest and just let the head weigh down the rest of the spine. Exhaling down, rounding the back. Then as you inhale, look forward with the collarbones, look forward with the sternum, kind of lengthening out the back and start to come up with the chest. You can reach your arms out to the sides if you want. And then as you exhale, again, you'll let the head weigh you down. Exhale to round into a forward bend. Knees are nice and bent. Inhale, let the chest look forward and let that bring you up. And you can do whatever you want with your arms. You could also just leave them by your side. But you're exhaling to go down and round. Inhaling to come up. Exhaling to kind of curve the spine. Inhaling to lengthen up. And you can let your pelvis kind of come into it too, to any extent that feels good. I was about to do the opposite. Next time that you're standing, we'll inhale, we'll exhale, and we'll hinge from the hips, keeping the spine kind of long this time. Like if we're doing like a sun salutation, sometimes we keep the spine long. So you'll exhale, you'll fold forward. And then you'll inhale, you'll drop the tailbone and round yourself back up. So like the whole spine stacks on top of the tailbone. So you're exhaling to sort of dive the chest over, hinging at the hips, bending the knees. Inhale to round the spine, dropping the tail and rounding the spine to come up. And then you can just come back to standing, just noticing whatever you notice. I don't like that second one today. That doesn't really feel that awesome. But the first one, it's kind of funny which one feels like more natural. There's something about inhaling with the chin tucked that is like feeling really awkward to me lately. Rolling up, even though I literally got a degree in like inhaling and rolling up and whatever, drama school. Anyway, here you are standing again, noticing your spine. And then you can kind of shift your hips side to side, or take any other kind of groovy motion that feels good. You can make circles. You can go the other way. Great, and then we'll step the feet really wide. And you can have your feet facing forward or turned slightly out. Finding both feet on the floor, inhale, widen the arms. And as you exhale, you'll bring your right hand across to the left knee or to the left ankle, folding forward and kind of twisting at the same time. I like to bring my other hand, the hand that's not reaching for the foot, to the sacrum with the elbow kind of pointing towards the ceiling. Then inhale, come back to upright, widening the arms, widening the chest, widening the collarbones, and then exhale, lower the arms. So you'll inhale, filling up, opening, widening. Exhale, keep all of that wideness as you twist and fold. And you can come bring your hand to whatever's like easy to reach. When it's time to inhale, you'll come up. Super open in the chest, super light. And exhale, lower the arms. A few more times. Inhaling, widening, feeling the space in the chest, inviting like this sunny kind of brightness into the chest, and keeping all of that openness as you twist and fold. You can bend the knee that you're twisting towards too, always. Inhale, come up. Exhale, lower the arms. Inhaling. So you're inhaling to be wide and sunny and bright and spacious, and then you're exhaling to twist around the abdomen, but keep all of that openness in the hips and in the shoulders and the chest. And the next time that you come into the twist, you could choose to stay there. You could stay there for a couple of breaths. You could chant Om a couple of times with your breath. That could be kind of nice. So you're in the foldy twist. You've exhaled over here. Then you'll inhale, feeling the length in the spine. Exhaling. Maybe one more. Inhale to fill up and rise up, open up. When it's time, exhale, lower the arms. Another side, inhale to float the fingertips away from each other, finding the space in the ribs all the way around. And then as you exhale, compressing the belly, but keeping this openness in the hips and the chest. And you can inhale once you're here, inhale and feel this length. Exhale on a chant perhaps, or like a hum. Ooh. Feel how as you're exhaling, as you're chanting, the belly is moving easily towards the spine and you're deepening the twist in some way. Maybe you're literally twisting more. Maybe you're just feeling the sense of coming into that place that you're twisting around just a bit more. Inhaling to come up. Exhale, lower the arms. Step your feet towards one another. Come back to standing. Good. And just notice whatever you're noticing. Nice. And then let's come down to the floor. Or you could take a forward bend and kind of hang out here. And then where we'll end up is we'll come into a lunge with the right leg forward, left leg back. So however you want to get there. Right leg forward, left leg back. And you could use blocks here if you've got them. You could really deeply lean into this front knee and take a nice deep bend in that front knee, enjoying the stretch in the back leg. The back knee could be lifted or on the ground. You're just breathing. And then you might decide to bring your hands to heart center. And maybe even lift your arms up alongside your ears, like into a V shape. Anjaneyasana. You can take a nice open kind of back bend here. Yeah, wide elbows is a great idea to bring the shoulder blades together, opening the chest. You could bring the hands together. Hi, Chandra. Good. And wherever you land, whichever shape that you take, just be sure that you can breathe there. Om Namah Shivaya. Good to see you. So be sure that you're not in so extreme a shape that you can't breathe, but the shape is actually highlighting the breath, that the shape is supporting the breath, that it feels like the breath created the shape rather than the breath trying to fit into a shape. Like I'm here and now I have to breathe somehow. And then you can lower your back knee down if that's comfortable. And here I recommend blocks if you've got them. And maybe even a blanket to pad the knee. And you could just skip this whole thing. You can just rest in this low Anjaneyasana, just keeping the tailbone pointing down, keeping the belly in, keeping the chest open. Or maybe you feel like lifting the back foot and reaching back for it with your right hand. For a little like quad stretch shoulder or something. So you're turning your belly towards your front right knee, right thigh, and letting kind of the foot pull against your hand and your hand pull against your foot. So a gentle twist in the spine, but notice how much stability and strength you need in your hips, in your legs. You're keeping yourself contained towards the midline. The outer hips are hugging in. And that's what allows for this opening across the chest, this opening across the front of the hip. Maybe one more breath here. And come back to center. Maybe one last little extension into Anjaneyasana, reaching the hands up towards the ceiling. And then exhale, lower the hands down to frame the front foot. And you can tuck your back foot toes and lift the back knee, stepping back maybe into downward facing dog. You can always also just kind of switch on your knees. So that's cool too. You might take a moment in downward facing dog to feel your spine lengthen out long, dangling from the tailbone. And then when you're ready, we'll bring the left foot forward, coming into a lunge on this other side. And here you'll find out what the deal is on this side, how deeply you want to bend into this front knee, you know, how upright you want to be through the torso. But keep track of where you are in space, where the pelvis is. The pelvis is still supporting you. These low belly muscles are still supporting you. The outer hips are still supporting you. And then you can find that lift and that extension, that opening, because you have the support of the hips, the legs, the feet. You can take quite a dramatic back bend if you feel like it. That feels good in the upper back. Noticing that the low back is still stabilizing. The low belly is stabilizing. Or maybe you're just hanging out with your fingertips on the floor or fingertips on the blocks. Focusing more on the sensation in the legs and just breathing with that. That's such a nice impulse, Maddie, the like gentle kind of twisting side to side. It's so nice to prepare for a little quad stretchy, which you can take on this side if you feel like it. You can lift the back foot and reach back. And then kind of hold this twist for a little while. Breathing here. Letting the shoulder open. Notice how all of this relies on stability in the low back. It relies on strength in the lower abdominal muscles. So the twist is happening a bit higher. And we're also feeling a little bit of maybe opening in the hips, which is really nice for a lot of like low back funkiness comes from just like wacky use of the hips and the legs, patterns and whatnot. So we're keeping all of that stuff really strong and stable, and then we're just enjoying a little shoulder. You can think of it like a shoulder opening or like an upper back bend twist thing. And coming back when you're ready. Again, either coming back to downward facing dog if that feels really nice to you, you could step back into that, or you can just come back to child's pose. We'll meet there in a minute anyway. So whatever feels good. In downward facing dog, imagine that you are hanging from your tailbone, like that your tailbone is the tallest point, and you can feel the rest of the spine just cascading down. Good. And then when you're ready, you can just bring the knees down, coming to child's pose. You can have the hands extended out in front of you or alongside you. Here, letting breath move into the back body. Imagine that you're literally breathing in and out of the space between the shoulder blades. If you are noticing like some sort of low back tension, you can imagine that that's where the breath is moving. Also, that's like where your nostrils are there. And like, for me, it's like the left upper back of pelvis, like QL, whatever, maybe your nostrils are there and you're breathing from that place. It's giving more attention, more like softness to those places that are feeling sensitive. From here, from child's pose, we'll come to set up on your forearms. So you'll spread your fingers wide. You'll have your elbows like right underneath your shoulders and your forearms on the floor. Fingers are spread wide like you're gonna do downward facing dog. And we'll just step back into a forearm plank with the heels reaching back, the tail reaching back, the hands and the forearms pressing down, chest is open. And notice if there's kind of some slack in the low back or some kind of like, if you need to rest and bring the knees down at any point, that's cool. More important to like have the pose with integrity and with breath and then come out and go back than to kind of, yeah, shift around in it when it's not right. But just a nice kind of core thing. As long as you can breathe there, you can be there. And then you'll come down to your belly and slide your forearms a little bit out in front of you for Sphinx pose. And in Sphinx pose, instead of like dipping the low back down, feel that you're actually pressing your pubic bone down and your tailbone kind of like down and back towards your heels. So it's the difference between pressing the belly down and pressing the pubic bone down. Not even really like exaggerating it that much. It's just like if I'm pressing the navel down, it looks like this and it feels like shit. And if I'm pressing the pubic bone down, it feels a little more challenging, a little like harder, but nicer on the low back. And don't forget about your feet. You can press your feet down. The tops of your feet are pressing down. Your fingertips are pressing down and forward, so your chest is opening. So you're pressing the floor away with your forearms. Maybe one more breath here. And then you'll just lower down and rest on your front. You can have your forehead down. You could turn your cheek to one side. In Shavasana, there's this sense that like the back body is releasing back and then the front body is super open, right? So here, face down and sort of like downward facing Shavasana, maybe you invite the sense that as you release the front body down, the back body can open and be soft towards the ceiling. Good. And then take one last little kind of like strengthening thing. It's up to you. Well, yeah, it's up to you. We can do Cobra, Bhujangasana, bringing your hands in line with your chest, pressing the tops of your feet into the floor and just lifting a couple of ribs, reaching the heart forward. Relying on your back muscles, your upper back muscles, your muscles around your shoulders to lift you. Even feeling like your navel is lifting off the floor a little bit rather than pressing into your hands. Or alternatively, you could take Shalavasana. You could do, part Shalavasana, just the upper body coming off the ground. You could reach the toes towards the back of the room and the fingers towards the back of the room. You could reach the fingertips towards the front of the room and the toes towards the back of the room. But notice how in all of these poses, there's no crunching in the lower back. That's like the bad habit and kind of pattern. We like want to become a taco shell that way and like get really tall in the chest and the legs, and then we squish the lower back. Instead, like you are going to touch the front of the room with the sternum. You're getting long, and then you're getting long through the legs. And you'll notice maybe the navel lifting off the floor just a bit as the abdominal kind of area engages. And then when you're done, you can come down. Just enjoying the breath moving through the front body against the floor. It's kind of a funny sensation. Nice. And then when you're ready, you can roll over. And you can just come to lie on your back with your feet on the floor. And take a moment to just notice what's going on here. Just feeling yourself on the floor this way. Feeling gravity coaxing your outer shoulders and your shoulder blades and your back of your head towards the ground. Feel that your pelvis is stable on the ground, widening even. You can just invite the sense that the whole body is spreading. Your shoulders are getting wider. Your pelvis is becoming like this big, wide oval print on the floor. Your feet even could grow. You could imagine your feet are growing like hobbit feet, just becoming enormous, spreading over the floor. The ribs, feel how wide the ribs are on the ground. Just breathing here feel like I'm getting a bad reputation around these parts because people keep on asking me for like different injuries or different like mental states, or like I'm experiencing this, like what yoga stuff should I do? And I'm like, oh, lay on the ground with your feet flat on the floor and just breathe. And people are like bummed because they're like, wait, what? But do you feel how much is happening here as you're just asking the body to release to the floor? Seriously, I'm like just so unpopular. Everyone's gonna stop asking me for advice. But I seriously think this is like the best thing for so many things. This having this relationship to the floor is so important and nice for sensing, just sensing your body's organization. So it's my theory that spending some time here every day just gives you some more awareness of the spine, of your back. Yes, the floor is my boyfriend. Exactly. And this image of spreading over the floor, or like letting the floor take you, all of these knots and stuff that we try and like massage out, or like a friend of mine is always like, punch my back, punch my shoulder's fucked up, punch it. So I got him one of those like punching gun things, and I was like, you can punch your own shoulder, but I think you should just lay on the ground. I think the shoulder will find the floor, find some space, but teach their own. But here we are. So from here, and having all of this support and all of this kind of feedback from the floor, now when we do something like bringing the right knee in towards the chest, hugging the right knee in towards the chest, you can notice if the low back is doing something weird to accommodate this right knee coming towards the chest. Maybe you feel like lengthening the left leg out, and because you're such good friends with the floor and you know what is happening in the back body, you can notice if your hips do something funky. You can notice if you shift to the side, or if you create a little divot in the low back as you lengthen that leg, and then maybe you decide to bring the foot back or keep it long. Some of you might take a strap here or grab the big toe and extend the sole of the right foot towards the ceiling. Or some of you might chill here, just hugging the knee in towards the chest. So many different options. You can also have the foot flat on the floor, the left foot, I mean, and have the right leg extending out to the ceiling. Leg can be bent, leg could be straight, you could have a strap. But wherever you are with the leg, just keep your shoulders and your neck and your chest nice and open. The foot is flexed like it's going to step onto the floor. And if the left leg is extended, it is also flexed and energized like it's going to step into the opposite wall. So this is a standing pose. There's a standing version of this, And when we try and stand in balance and do this, all kinds of weird stuff in the spine. We're like hiking one hip and we're trying to grab the foot, and it gets all stressful. But here you can just enjoy this opening, whatever it feels like. And you might take the leg out to the side. That's kind of fun. Keeping the left hip grounded, you might widen the front of the pelvis, reaching the right heel out to the side. You could always bring it to the other side, coming across you, whether the leg is bent or straight. You can kind of cross into a little reach. It might turn into a little twist or something, or just a reaching across. You can still feel the shoulders, the back of the head, everything on the floor nice and supported. And then coming back to center. Lengthen both legs out long. And just notice your two sides. Notice whatever you're noticing. So the floor is nice because then we get to isolate like mobility in certain joints without having to work so much in other parts of the body. So here we get to like work in the backs of the legs and the hip sockets and notice all of this stuff. And these are the areas that are often tight and lead to low back discomfort. Because as you can feel right now, you feel how it's all super intimately connected. So you can bring your feet back now, back to standing, and hug your left knee in towards your chest, noticing how this side might be different. Hanging out here, maybe lengthening the right leg, maybe. Shoulders are still wide on the ground. And if you feel like grabbing a strap or something, I happen to have one here, you could take it in either hand and reach the sole of the left leg up towards the ceiling. In like, for example, a seated forward fold or something, or if we were in like Dandasana and we had both legs extended long, you can see how this is Dandasana, but just like sideways, one-legged sort of. But we'd be maybe kind of stressed out through the back, through the spine of trying to keep the spine upright or even trying to reach the chest towards this foot. If we're standing, we might be putting unnecessary pressure on one or other hip to kind of try and find stability. Here you can just feel the opening in the back of the leg, keep the back body nice and relaxed and supportive. This area that we're focusing on here in the leg. And then you could open out to the side if you feel like it, bringing the strap into the left hand and reaching the heel away from the midline, bringing the right hip to the floor, keeping that right hip as close to the floor as you can. And then if you feel like it, you could bring the leg across. Just breathe in. Keeping your attention on sensations in the body, noticing the breath. And then when you're done, you can come back to center. And this time, hug both knees in towards your chest. And maybe you rock side to side. And then we'll roll to one side and just come to seated for a second. And we'll come to a like a 90-90, which 90-90, like 90 degrees in both knees, but it doesn't really feel that great. So I do like a 45. Let's see, 45, like 32. I don't know, but just one knee, let's say, the left shin is in front And the right knee is kind of out to the side and back, more or less. Yeah, your feet are both flexed. And there's a lot going on already. This is a nice substitute for some people for like pigeon pose because it's a lot of stuff going on already. But what we're gonna do is just a little mobility. So we'll just take the knees, notice where they're pointing, and we're gonna point them that way, the other way. We're just gonna kind of creep over to one side. Some of us will want to have the hands to help us. Some of us can look mono hands. And just go slow and be breathing. And just be mindful. It shouldn't like hurt in the knees. This is like a hip strength, hip mobility. And this is nice. I mean, might not be that great if you are noticing that it's painful in the low back. Don't do it. If anything's painful ever, don't do it. But this is nice, kind of just like hygiene, maintenance, upkeep for the low back, actually, because having more mobility and stability in the hips is going to help with the low back. And then some of you guys, probably not me, maybe I shouldn't attempt, but some of you guys might like come to one side and be able to come up onto your knees for a moment, and then come back down with the butt safely and come up around to the other side and come up onto the knees. I don't know. There's all kinds of funky stuff you can do. And there's also a version where you like, what is it? Well, you can invent whatever the thing is. Maybe you come to one side and you can step out of it, step into like a lunge, and then slide back and step up. Whee! Getting away from the floor and coming back to the floor safely is my goal for all of life. I feel like that's just like have you seen, I mean, you know, like people who are older, like 70s, 80s, who can just like get up from the floor. It's so like it's so amazing. I had so many teachers in college that were like older, you know, and they would be like, all right, and we're all like, oh, it's 8 a.m. And like, I can't argue with this like 87-year-old woman who can just like, boop, bye. It's amazing. Anyway, when you've had enough, you can just come back and take just a cross-legged seat. Let's just take an easy seated twist to one side. As you breathe in, feeling like you're breathing down the spine, lengthening the spine. As you're breathing out, you're breathing up the spine, twisting. In other words, you're breathing kind of down into the base of the heart, breathing out and up. Noticing as you breathe in, the diaphragm descends. As you breathe out, the diaphragm floats back up. Inhale to unwind. And then you can exhale over to the other side whenever you're ready. And then when you're ready, inhaling to unwind. Great. And now we'll return to our backs. We'll close with a couple more shapes on our backs. We'll take, bring your feet back to standing. You can bring one ankle to the other knee. Take a look at your foot and be sure that your foot looks like how it looks when you're standing. So it's not kind of like twisted out any which way. The foot is right there at the end of the ankle where it is supposed to go. And then you could either stay here and just feel both halves of the pelvis on the floor, feel the knee that is turned out, kind of reaching away from you. You could press it away with your hand. Or you could reach between your legs and grab the back of the hamstring, coming into a supine pigeon sort of variation. Again, keeping the spine long, keeping the shoulders wide. Noticing as this shape unfolds, just notice the constant stream of sensations. It's like you never land in the shape. It just keeps on developing. And then at a certain point, you're like, okay, maybe that's enough. And then you stay a little longer. Sometimes that moment where you're like, yeah, I'm good, is when there's something cool is about to happen. Or something tiny but cool. And then when you're ready, when it's time to change sides, you'll change sides. You can take your time to get there. You'll set it up in the same way. You'll check out your foot, make sure that it looks normal, and press your knee out to the side a bit as you ground the opposite hip. Maybe you're like, this is good on this side, this is enough. Or maybe you feel like coming into the full kind of shape. It's cool too. That's what keeps these longer holds interesting, is that it's like, it's not the same moment to moment. You're noticing the whole kind of process, or many processes, as they kind of pop up in your awareness, and then sensations come, they go, they fade away, they change. It's like when you're reading a book and you're like halfway down the page and you're like, whoa, wait, I was not paying attention, I have to go back. But the nice thing about the asana practice is like, you don't have to go, you just start from right wherever you are, and you're gonna understand what's going on. You can notice stuff starting right now. you didn't really miss anything. All of all that sensation already happened. It's already gone. It's already like dead and gone. So you can just notice starting now. And then after the pose, there's a moment of returning to like a neutral sort of resting place, maybe like a reference point. And then you get to notice how you are then, like notice what's happening then. That's like the after effect. The immediate sort of sense of what just happened. So it's cool because there's always something to notice. When you're finished on this side, you can come back to having both feet flat on the floor and take that moment of now what? Now what's happening? What's here? And from here, you might enjoy maybe happy baby or apanasana, hugging your knees in towards your chest. Might be nice, or both, one and then the other. You can just let your kind of sense of what would feel nice. You can let that be the guide. Notice what you're noticing here. Then you can notice that you are noticing. Happy baby is a nice one because it reminds me of being a baby and where all you were doing was just noticing stuff. Like you had no context. And one day you found out that you could reach your own feet and you found out that those were your feet. And that meant that you were this one and like, what? And there's that kind of like a sense of exploration that can come back sometimes, I feel like, in happy baby. Because when you see babies do this, they are just they're stoked because A, it feels awesome. B, they just invented it. They're like, did you know you guys could do this? My parents are never doing this, but I'm going to do this every day now. And this sense of wholeness and fullness. There's maybe sensation in the hips, but notice how you've made this kind of loop from hand to foot to foot to hand. So nice. And then if you'd like to come to Shavasana, that's a great place to go. If there's another shape or movement that you are yearning for, you can take that. So make yourself comfortable. We won't be here super duper long, but as always, if you want to stay in your own kind of zone and in your own restful space, you're always welcome to do that. You can move into a seated meditation, but I will encourage you to take a few moments at least on the floor, on your back, in corpse pose or something like it. Supta Baddha Konasana, that's nice too. Just something where you are still. Maybe your eyes can softly close. And instead of going into like sleepy dreamland, you can come into a sense of restful alertness. So do you notice the difference, just the quality of coming to Shavasana versus laying down to sleep? Some people it's like, yeah, of course. But some of us, like, we come to the floor, we come to lie down on our back, and it really reminds us of going to sleep. Especially if you have like a shitty bed and you're like, yeah, this floor pretty much feels like going to sleep. It's like hard ground. But as you're feeling into just the feeling of being still, being on your back, being quiet, I feel like it's an important part of this pose to highlight is that it's not going to sleep. It's almost like with your awareness, you are noticing, taking in your whole body and maybe coloring it in. You're noticing where you are on the floor. You feel your outline. You feel how close you are or far away from other stuff or people in the room. You feel into this space that you inhabit. This body takes up this amount of space. And as you're breathing here, you are filling in that outline with life, with energy, with awareness, with even awakeness, even if the body and the mind are completely asleep. If you ever practice yoga nidra, it's a beautiful practice of intentionally putting the body and the mind to sleep to notice that other, that one that stays awake and alert and aware. So maybe you are noticing this kind of sparkliness of awareness that is behind, in, around, encapsulating, enveloping this experience of being restful on the floor. Notice the vitality, the energy that is here. This is making me think, I don't know, I just feel compelled to share this. I've been noticing recently, I would have this kind of almost fear of being tired, especially if I had things to do. Or lately I've been, like having a long day, doing a bunch of things, and then I understand that I have to go to work, 6 to midnight, I'm going to be at work. And it's like, what? There's no way. Like, how's she going to do that? And there's almost like this thing I've been noticing of like the fear or the apprehension around being tired takes up so much space. And when I stop to notice like how awake and alive I actually am, even when the body is tired, like the mind can be completely like, I was ill this weekend. I was just, a mess, just not functional. But there was a whole kind of store of energy and awakeness and aliveness that had nothing to do with the body, nothing to do with the mind. I was like, all right, then you can go to work for me because I can't, I'm not going. I can't. Just resting in the energy that's here that is not generated by anything. Hi, Ashish. Just good to see you. If you feel like, if you're in Shavasana and you feel like staying here, by all means, please do. And if you feel like coming out of Shavasana, could move through a series of small movements and roll to one side and then press yourself up to seated. You could do that as well. So it's up to you. And then when you're coming up to seated, if you are, you might just notice what it's like to be you right now, what it's like to be in this body. Notice that you are noticing whatever it is. It's fun to practice hatha yoga. It's like this funky little playground or something. It's like, what can this thing do? Like, what can we do? Just watching all of the sensations is flying around like fireworks. You get to just watch. So let's close with chant. Let's just chant Om thrice. And you're welcome to chant with me, or if you're staying in Shavasana, you could stay resting. We'll just chant to close this portion of the evening. So inhale through the nose. Thank you to this ancient practice and all of its teachers. Thank you all for being here and practicing together, spending this time. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om peace, peace, peace. Thanks, everybody. Happy belated Shivaratri.